me. Today, we're going to discuss social value in procurement and learn from a bidding expert who has lived experience in creating a real impact from her actions. And we're joined by Anne McNamara from ShineX, who is a bidding strategy guru. And she's also a growth expert with a track record in building businesses and spearheading efforts to make positive change. And by way of background, Anne started off co-founding the Big Issue North in the UK, and she ended up in the bidding world, and now she's bringing her passion for persuasion and social impact initiatives together to make positive social and political change. Anne's going to take us through a case study of how she pitched differently and she succeeded, and what she learned from the process, and what other companies, including SMEs, can do to include social value in their commercial offering as a win-win for their business, for procurement, and for the community. So, Anne, thank you for joining me. And I love that I never know where you're living. 1 minute it's in London or San Fran, Galway. Where are you today?
I'm in Ireland today. So yeah, I'm very lucky that thanks particularly to post-coronavirus, you can work anywhere. So I take full advantage of that. Yeah, good.
Well, I love your story and what you're working on currently. You've run bids for major infrastructure projects in the UK, as well as Fortune 500 companies and fast-growing startups out of Silicon Valley in the US. But more recently, you have become involved in the community sector, helping Afghan women and their dependents escape the Taliban from in Kabul. That is absolutely remarkable. Can you talk us through the initiative, and how did you do it? How did you pitch to get this happening, and the quick action that unfolded? Take us from the very beginning and tell us the journey.
So when everything was kicking off in Syria, I read everything, looked at everything, and did absolutely nothing. And to this day, I feel guilty about it. It wouldn't have been hard to do something for a handful of people. And when the Taliban came rolling into Afghanistan, and women in particular were trying to flee, I just thought, I can't do this another time. So the sort of Shine team sat down and said, look, if we put 10 grand into this, can we help smuggle somebody out? We just thought, we'll just do a unilateral action. We're just going to help somebody get smuggled out. And then we kind of got it out there on the ether, and spoke to my local, the Irish equivalent of MP here in Ireland. It's called TD, and just said, look, what can we do? And he was like, don't do anything illegal. Go through the proper channels. And I thought, oh, this is great. Now we'll get nowhere. So we'll keep the illegal option in our back pocket. But what happened was fascinating, because there was so much goodwill to do something, and nobody really knew how to do it. So we had this sort of crisis-driven opportunity to reframe how we tackled a big problem. So we started to sort of speak to eventually found who was driving us in Ireland, who was driving the response to us. And they were like, look, we'll help as many as we can, but we don't have the infrastructure for this. So we kind of thought, well, okay, if we can drive the infrastructure, will that make things easier for you? They were like, absolutely. Because there's people like the Red Cross, the Irish Refugee Council, who are already at maxed house. There aren't enough housing. We have a huge, big housing crisis. So we basically went out to loads of our clients and said, give us a load of money so that we can create an infrastructure. So altogether, between we got a load of money. Sorry, the key part that I forgot on this is we were reaching out to agencies, NGOs, saying, how can we help? How can we help? And Ascend, which had about 72 mainly female athletes that are Hazaras, which are the Shiite minority that are considered to be infidels by the Taliban, were desperately trying to get out of the country. So we did some research on them, checked them out. They were credible. We aligned ourselves with them and said, right, we will take 20 into Ireland, see if we can take 20 into Ireland.
Hi, I'm Marina Legree, Executive Director of Ascend, Leadership Through Athletics. We're a not-for-profit organization based in the United States. We use extraordinary athletic achievement as a way to cultivate unity, teamwork, and leadership skills among young people living in countries in conflict. Our first program takes us to Afghanistan, where we're training a team of young Afghan women to climb the nation's highest mountain. The plan is to prepare our team physically and mentally to climb the highest mountain in the country. They're about to enter their second phase of the training program, which involves physical fitness combined with formal classroom instruction in conflict resolution, leadership, and communication skills. As they go through this program together, they'll bond as a team and learn to rely on and value one another. Let's hear from some of the team members themselves.
When I first heard about this program from Faisal, it was really exciting for me because I live there, and I think it will be an adventure for me to climb a mountain that I always dreamed of. And also because this is something very new in Afghanistan, and even most people don't even have any idea that a girl can go and climb a mountain. So I think this will be a really nice and a very, inshallah, very successful adventure. And I hope that by doing this, me and other girls who are participating in this program will prove a point that not just men, especially Afghan men, are capable of doing such adventurous or dangerous things, but also women can have that ability to prove themselves, to know that they can also do something which men can do, and they can be equal to other men.
I want to join the mountain climbing program for girls, and I am really excited for that, and I think it's a big opportunity for me to improve my skills and to participate in this program. And I want to improve to learn how to climb mountains. I want to improve my skills in leadership, and I want to show the world that as an Afghan girl I can do many things and I can be a good mountain climber.
I'm working as the program coordinator for Ascend International in Afghanistan. As our first activity here, we are establishing a team of 20 girls who will be climbing one of the highest mountains next year. In Ascend, we believe in empowering women through sports, and by this activity, we are aiming to introduce new heroes and new faces to the people in our society. In year 2015, the first team of female mountain climbers will be hiking one of the most difficult peaks, and from that peak we will deliver the message of peace and equality to the people of Afghanistan and also to the people of the world.
We have a fantastic team of young women who are working hard to reach their goal. They need your support for the next phase of their training. If you believe in the power of teamwork and athletic achievement, join us in getting this extraordinary team to the top of the mountain. Give what you can and spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over 10 days in August 2021, the Taliban seized power after foreign forces withdrew from Afghanistan after a costly 2-decade war. Women especially face an uncertain future. There was fear that Ascend Athletics' good work would be undone by the Taliban. They were deeply worried about the women's safety, their rights, and their protection. Anne and Dublin-based solicitor Andrea Martin began lobbying for the state to give safe haven and refugee visas to 20 women.
And then between our clients who basically, between our clients and Ascend, we got about $120,000 raised in about 5 days. And then we went to the Irish government agencies and said, right, we've got money. And they were like, money won't buy you housing. We've a housing problem. So we went to all of our networks and said, open your houses. And we got 3 times the offers that we needed. And we sort of then brought all that together, created resettlement packages, and created a really decent infrastructure that was almost as good, at least on paper, it's as good as what the Red Cross or the Refugee Council could do independently. But we are all working together. I have got to say, I think this is the first time in my career I have actually seen private sector, public sector, NGOs working together so healthily, and it's all because of a crisis. So that's and the first people arrived today at 11:40 at Dublin Airport.
That is, congratulations. That must be an awesome feeling. And you're right. That isn't it sad that it has to take a crisis to bring, create such transformational change, but this is a great story to tell. And so what's next for the Ascend Athletes group? What happens now? Is this the end of your involvement, or is there a handover?
No. So there isn't really anybody to hand over to. So we are responsible for their resettlement. How did I get myself into this one? So there's myself and a woman called Andrea in Dublin. So Andrea's taking responsibility for 10, I'm taking responsibility for 10. And it's basically community support. We are using some of our fundraising money to take on a day-to-day on the ground resettlement worker to do all the running around. Like, we have an 11-year-old starting school, we have a pregnant woman, we have loads of complexities there. So our job really is to spend the next 12 to 18 months making sure that they're properly integrated into Ireland and can sort of get on and be fully independent.
Wow, big job, Anne.
I like to delude myself that it'll be a piece of cake.
I think you're a really great example of someone who's really putting their passion into a purpose, and you've achieved not only the resettlement, but you've actually achieved the cross-border advocacy with a US-based NGO while you're based in Ireland. And with no previous international aid experience. So hats off to you. I think that's a real testament to you as an individual, but also something very inspiring for others. And I think what you're doing, we're now starting to see the concept of social value being asked for and responded to in public sector tendering. And so from your experience, we see a lot of lip service being paid to social value, right? So I think you've walked the journey. And so what is social value, and why does social value matter for businesses and procurement?
It's fascinating, really, because I think Milton Friedman's big comment, big thesis on business, saying the only social responsibility is to increase profits, is actually this sort of baseline crap that we're all having to get over. There's no entity in our lives where all we do is one thing. We just have one single focus. You don't raise children just to be good academically or to be good sports people. You raise them to be polite and to do, to be able to pick up litter and to do their homework. And you're trying to get around the thing. But then we have this thing about business should only be making money. Otherwise you're failing in your responsibility. Plus, a huge percentage of businesses aren't stock IPO'd, stock exchange, shareholder responsibility kind of stuff. I can't remember the stats, but most businesses, most people are employed by small businesses. And at least in the UK, and I know that stats right. So business has a huge opportunity to do social good. And what is social value? I think it depends where you are. It's about ensuring that what you do has positive impact, either on the service that you are providing or the people around you. And it's not that hard. We don't have to get all hung up. We know when we've done social value. We know when we're doing good stuff. And it's usually a small deviation from what we are trying to achieve. So it's a bit of a pain in the neck that we have to reach out for more diverse than a more diverse group than is our natural cohort, or we have to be more environmentally conscious. It is about going the extra mile. And in public sector procurement, they're very, very good at procuring for it now. They'll KPI you and they'll ask you very specifically, and you might have to set up departments to sort of really deal with it. And it's definitely getting there. But I think there's an underlying intellectual resistance to social value because it's slightly more complex than the Friedman, like, just stick to one thing and just do it well.
Right. And I agree with you there. I think maybe theoretically it started getting adopted because governments realized they couldn't solve all of the world's problems, and so they looked to business to help compensate that, or to extend that capability. But I think it is totally a shared responsibility. We don't we know that being happy isn't all about it, is work-life balance, and I think this balance is starting to come through in the business world as well. So grassroots action does make a difference. We've seen that with COVID, and what social value looks like in practice. And during lockdown, many manufacturers, they pulled together, they produced critical supplies like hand sanitizer. We saw pivots in businesses and supermarkets, bringing in hospitality workers who lost their jobs and so forth. So do you think, or is there a fundamental difference between social impact and social value? And if there is, can you explain what the difference is there?
I don't know. I don't know. There probably is, but I think when you so from a procurement perspective, you will get some very nicely procured. We do some great work in Northern Ireland, and I was blown away at how good Northern Ireland is about requiring social value. Social value in their context is the employment and training of particular groups and buying local, in effect, to summarize it. In terms of social impact, I feel like, I don't know whether academically it is, social impact is something that as a business you can say, this is where we're going to have our impact. Look at what Patagonia did, standing up to Trump and saving the protected land, or trying to save the protected lands, and challenging him. If they stuck to the Friedman principle, they'd have just, sold more jackets. But instead, they go, we're here to enjoy the outside world. Our impact is the environment, and they're really clear. Not all of us can be that clear because we're in professional services and it's not so clear where our impact can lie. But I think you can sit down and go, where do we want to have an impact? And what I think is really cool about post-coronavirus is people have recognized that a lot of the stuff that we were sold along the way, the 9 to 5, schlep into the office and sit down at our desk and, work Monday to Friday, has been really tipped on its head. And it kind of makes you wonder, we think we're all so independent, and yet we have all just been surfing the rhythms of capitalism. And let's just shake it up a bit. And I'm having much more interesting conversations with clients now around, what are we here for? If we're a construction company, what legacy can we leave? That can be in training. It could be in buildings. It could be in leaving a legacy of heritage skills. But start to think about it. Because the one thing that really blew me away with the Afghanistan experience was how hungry the world is for solutions, and how much willingness there is to work together when the solution is kind of obvious. People are in trouble, help them out. I know it's not a macro solution. And I think that's another capitalist fraud that we fall into. If it's not macro and it's not scalable, it doesn't count. Well, nobody raises kids, or nobody has successfully raised kids at a macro level. You raise kids on a micro level, and your successes and failings on child rearing are pretty much evident. Decide not to teach them table manners. It's kind of, the micro emissions are evident. And I think developing a range of micro solutions is going to be the way forward. Yeah, you're right. And I think you've sort of almost summed it up nicely there when you were saying, the social impact is the cause and effect relationship, whereas the activities and the outcomes, whereas the social value is the cumulative effect, the creating of the jobs and the jobs and the training
creates the systemic change. Yeah, I think that's a good wrap up that you gave. And so what do you think companies can do to get started on their social value journey, just and going beyond the direct benefit to the service user, that is, you know, ticking a box in procurement? Like what will a successful business of the future likely look like?
I think we are going to see a real separation around. I think it's going to be sort of three ways. The sort of businesses that have not even sort of considered this, which will really struggle. And I think the next one is the people who are trying to do it as a marketing application. Yeah. Oh, we should add this on because it's the thing of the moment. And I think the most successful businesses will really consider, what is my impact? What can we do? And remembering that, again, that most businesses are relatively small, and this doesn't have to be bankrupting stuff. It is about putting real conscious effort into thinking, what do we want our impact to be? And then sticking to that. We're working with an amazing company in the US, and this is probably their most asked question. And we haven't cracked it yet, but I love the fact that they're on a journey. Why are we here? Now, they could give the Friedman answer, we're here to make profits, but they don't like that answer. And we're not going to crack it overnight, but we are going to crack, how can we be an umbrella for good? How can we do our job, but also make things better? And I think by not doing this is why we have the environment, the climate crisis that we have. It's why we have a whole industrialized war machine that takes up, you know, a huge amount of our taxpayers' money and cripples half of our economies in debt. By not taking this on ourselves, I think we contribute to the society that we've got. And to really start it, you just have to ask yourself that question: what can we have an impact on that will make a difference for this world? And then the next question is it ours to do? Is this ours to do, or is somebody better to do it? And just by constantly asking those two questions, what needs doing, what can we do, you'll get there.
And where do you remember when, you know, corporate social responsibility became or the triple bottom line measures came out, you know, in the and corporate governance? So it took a while for that to catch on in organizations, and it really didn't catch on until it had a home. Do you see social value becoming a role in an organization, or where does it live? Where does the initiative where is it owned, and how does it get driven from the inside out? I mean, you're a business owner yourself, so you're nimble enough to do that. For a big organization, where do they start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough for established organizations that want to do it as an add-on. It's hard. It's easier to sort of make it the heart of a more authentic from the heart. Did you know that 90% of millennials would change brand for a brand with a purpose? Now, wow. We can all get good at, it's unbelievable. We can all get good at sort of telling brand stories about our purpose and all the rest. But in the same way as we've got a lot more discerning about working out fake news and all the rest, we will get more discerning about working out fake BS. You know, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it starts with a leadership-led commitment. And I would love to see people who believe in the sort of Friedman principle to just say, I mean, if you ever read what he says, he's brutal, you know, it's like, this is a load of socialist nonsense and people shouldn't be doing it. And I'd love some companies to have the authenticity to stand up and say, we believe in making profits and we'll put some post-profit money into good works, leave us alone. And good luck to them. And I would like to see the ones who don't feel like that grapple with this issue and go, what can we do? And own it at their heart. And yes, it should be represented by as senior a person as the CFO.
Yeah. And wherever it lands in an organization, and I guess, you know, you've got this experience now in helping your clients get up and running with probably what could have been their first social impact initiative. And so how are they going in? I know it's only very new, but how will they report or measure the outcome of the island refugee initiative? Like, if you were to break it down for an organisation, where do they start tracking and measuring and reporting on metrics? Because there is, I came across a social impact calculator, and I believe that's what evaluation panels could end up using. Because I believe in the UK it can be up to 40% of the evaluation criteria. It hasn't quite caught on as much as that. I know UK is far more advanced in their procurement reform than other nations, but the evaluators clearly have got an evaluation criteria happening, but there's not much is being imparted to businesses on how they can actually bridge the divide or bridge the gap.
So to get technical about it, in the EU when Britain was still part of the EU, Britain drove all this within the EU and was an absolute leader in this. They established the criteria for effective and legal social value that could be added to contracts. So, for example, you can require that you can't require that a company add social value. You can require that a company undertake the contract that the company is undertaking has to have X amount of social value. And there's some fairly well-worn formulas for how you would work that out. So it's, I forget all the measurements, but let's say it's 1% of every million has to go on employment and training. And
okay.
But it's very, very clear. And that is amazing. And Britain has stuck to most of that post-Brexit that I'm aware of. And you're dead right, social value in procurement is pretty significant. And there's enough experts out there. At one point, there was only like 2 people who knew what they were talking about in this area. Now, most procurement legal teams know how to do this. And so you can add things like gender equality, targeted employment, as in you need to employ this group. You can, as long as it reflects the problems of the procurement area, you can get it in the contract. So that is, and then the local authority tends to have an officer who is measuring you on your KPIs. So it got very big in PFI. So when you had to report on all your other KPIs, social was reported. And where it got serious was you could get fined for underperforming in PFI, which is why the big companies started to take it very seriously. And it is still going on, and it's good, but it's commoditized. So it's like they want us to do this. We will do this. We will take on a local employment officer, and she usually will make it all happen for our contract. And it's the same as like contractual requirements to hose down the streets after you make dust or something like that. So it's done, but I wouldn't say it's ever sort of really got into it. It's been an elemental shift. It hasn't been a big shift.
Right. So it's been more of a compliance driven requirement, but it hasn't really changed the DNA of how businesses run.
No, and I think post coronavirus there is a shift, a real societal shift. I've never had so much interest and had so many conversations around, this isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
Something's got to change. And we love doing business, but what is it all for? And it's not oh, I'm going to run off and, you know, live in a cabin up the mountains. It's like, I have to add more. And this is coming from, yeah, some woo-woo Californians, but also Irish builders. So it's in there, you know, there, I just think there's a willingness to change. And I do think if you look at the big societal shifts post First and Second World War, you know, women's emancipation, First World War, Second World War, you know, the 60s, the whole like, you know, tossing up of the new order, of the old order. I think coronavirus is our mini war. And I think we will start to see some shifts. And now
I think you're right.
to capitalize on it.
Big changes. Yeah.
But I have been blown away by the unity of vision, and there has not been one bad actor in this from every single person involved. It has been extraordinary, and the coalition for good has been amazing, and that's what gives me real hope about where we are at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think being able to build that coalition of support around you, you know, yeah, is absolutely the critical success factor, no doubt. So thank you so much for sharing today. And have you got any other last thoughts or tips or piece of advice for anyone who wants to or even help with your cause?
Yeah, well, we would I've lots of help to ask for. I could be here all night. We would like to scale in a small way what we've done with Afghanistan across Ireland to mean that we could receive more refugees in a way that doesn't bankrupt the country. And so I will be coming out looking for some seed funding for somebody to back a not-for-profit to get this going. So it's very sexy, very simple idea, and there's a lot of willingness, and it will be a not-for-profit. So if anybody's interested in that, I would love to talk to them.
Excellent. You heard it first. Yeah. And you can find Anne. What's your Twitter handle, Anne? And LinkedIn and Twitter.
LinkedIn. I don't do Twitter.
Okay, we'll slide into a DMs on LinkedIn then. Thank you. Thank you, Anne. You have a great time, and thank you for getting up early in the morning to have the chat. It's always good to chat with you.
And you. Thanks a million, Nairi.
Thank you.